Coming up next, it's the Pro Wrestling Report Interactive, and oh boy, might your eyes do you good, because we've got a brand new correspondent joining us coming up in just a few moments. It's the Pro Wrestling Report Interactive. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Interactive. And what an interactive ride it's going to be. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside the man they call Meathead and the latest edition of the Pro Wrestling Report team, Linda Kay. Linda, how are you?
Hello there.
Fantastic. How are you guys?
You're our first lady in years. Ever since Kendra D. St. Aubin was part of the show back in, what was that, 2002, 3, 4? But anyways, that matters not. Linda, welcome to the program, and it should make for some active discussion as we go through your emails. And let's start with those emails which were submitted to us via pwrshow.com, and this first one comes from Damon Maudry. Not Damian. Damon Maudry. He says this. Pay attention, guys. The key to TNA success is the subject of the email. I am in my mid-30s, and I've been a professional wrestling fan for over 25 years.
Or as we say, about a minute.
I grew up in the golden era of the mainstream WWE reign with the likes of Hogan, Bundy, et al. I was also knee-deep in the Monday Night Wars in the 90s, and just like Pacino said, when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. When I say they, I mean TNA.
I don't think that was Pacino. Was it Al Pacino?
Can I finish? TNA's March 8th show rocked, hands down. I think the key is TNA delivering Attitude Era wrestling, but with post-millennium sensibilities. By post-millennium sensibilities, I mean they have finally learned how to tap into universal themes that emotionally engage the audience. This is what has been lacking in WWE right now, in my opinion. This is why I don't even watch Raw as much as I used to. The key that says to me TNA is tapping into universal themes is when your ROH co-host on the ESPN post-TNA show said his 4-year-old wanted to see Hulk Hogan get back up again after Flair beat him bloody. And that was what Rashi Brown said on this on a recent edition of the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. And I continue quoting from Damon here. He wanted to see Hogan get back up because TNA tapping into very primal and universal things deep inside all of us. It's why Avatar was the #1 movie in the entire world. It's not the 3 dimensions, because all it is dancing with wolves in space. It's because Avatar has tapped into global subconsciousness, promotes things we value as species, such as standing up for what you believe in, conviction, redemption, conservationism, that's the word, community, etc., etc. And as I complete here, TNA hit the mark with Hogan, and it is ironic, all the TNA critics said Hogan was the worst possible thing to happen to TNA since WCW. What they forget is Hogan is one of the smartest people in the business. All hyperbole aside.
Right, hyperbole.
It's hyperbole. Aside, because he knows how to sell those universal storylines that get people to root for him. People from ages 8 to 80.
Or 4 to 80.
If TNA is smart, they will continue to use universal themes in their storylines, and hopefully it will be too late until WWE realizes what they're doing, and when WWE does, this means even better wrestling for the fans overall. That email from Damon Maudry. Meathead, your thoughts on that very lengthy yet detailed and thought out email.
Thank you, is what I first think of. Thank you, Damon, for speaking for myself, who is in his 30s, has been watching wrestling for 20 plus years, was in the heat and the mix of it all in the WWE, WWF in the early 80s, who was in the middle of the Monday Night Wars. Thank you for, and I think it's hyperbole, but I can't, maybe I'm not pronouncing it right either. You're right. Again, Rashi Brown. Rashi.
Oh, that's what she said.
What was it?
I think hyperbole.
That was so close. It's the gum. I'm sorry.
Thanks for chewing.
What Rashi Brown mentioned on the radio show this past week on 540 ESPN was that his 4-year-old actually wanted to see Hogan get back up again. And you're right, it's from a person standing up for they wanted, or standing up for something that they believed in, something that they wanted, and being beat down by the man, something I can buy into over and over and over, something I have a connection with as well. So you're right, and I hope that was intentional in TNA. I don't know if it was, though.
Linda, your thoughts?
Well,
Overall, saying TNA is focusing on that emotional engagement of the fans.
Well, I can agree with everything you guys have been saying. Me, of course, also growing up watching Hogan as a kid, and just over the years seeing the changes from him, being face and heel. I don't know. I think a lot of people, like, we were just talking about, Skull Crusher's son, like just wanting to see Hogan and all that stuff. It's from if we don't see it ourselves, it's from what we hear from other people. What we grew up seeing. We grew up, like me, grew up seeing Hogan just being, the
Brother.
yes, like the American man, the American hero. But maybe some people who grew up during, when WCW was, at its prime, seeing him as a bad guy. I don't know. I think that just bringing him in and just like giving what people want to see, giving all different types of, I don't know, feelings and thoughts.
That emotional
I don't know.
attachment.
There's a connection, a reason
Yeah.
why, and that's really the basis of the wrestling business. Get the people to care about you, either they love you or they hate you, but get them to feel about you.
Thank you for that email, Damon. Let's go now to another email from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Angel Batances. Sorry if I am saying your name wrong. Guys, I respect your opinions. We have a girl now, too. Guys, I respect your opinions and thoughts, but was I missing something here? I thought TNA sucked on March 8th. Honestly. People talk about how WWE does the same old, same old. Honestly, I didn't see anything that TNA was doing that I haven't seen before or caught my intrigue. Promoting WrestleMania was, in my opinion, more important and more interesting in comparison to see another attempt to resurrect WCW. The X Division match was decent, but I thought Jeff Hardy's return was weak. RVD was worse. Nice to see Hogan in the ring, but please let's not watch that again. I could see Hulk in pain and Ric Flair in the ring. I still feel betrayed for that. Was just crap. Utterly pure crap. Maybe I'm just going against the grain here since everyone is drinking the TNA Kool-Aid, but I don't see what the big deal is. I'd rather stick to the USA Network and watch WWE. Even my son, who just left the room because he hated me switching over to TNA just to see nothing special. That from Angel Batances from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Not contradictive, but not the same tone as the previous email from Damon Mondry, and basically saying he saw nothing special from TNA.
And again, thank you for your email. Just like we thank Damon for their email. The thing is, though, and being amongst the IWC and listening to what they say,
It's the internet wrestling community.
there seems to
Let's get up
be
to speed here.
there seems to be a couple common threads that you're going to hear of from people. One, they're on the TNA bandwagon, or they're drinking the Kool-Aid, or they're a TNA mark, sitting in catering all the time. The thing is that I've heard it mentioned before here on this very program. TNA was different. Not so much the actual Hogan and Flair being in the ring, and I feel betrayed too, by the way. I don't know how
We were
you
at
feel.
WrestleMania 24, and I've been very public in this
we were at
program
the Raw
saying he
after.
should never wrestle again after the most spectacular send-off in the history of wrestling. And reports are that Flair was not necessarily on board with getting in the ring on Monday, March 8th, because firstly, it was given away for free, and it was supposed to be more special than that. And secondly, he's walked away from the notion of never wrestling again after retiring, because quite frankly, in wrestling, you retire 12
And
times before you actually
we
retire.
understand that Rick has some financial issues that need solving, so that's why he's doing what he's doing. He's already wrestled with Hogan in Australia. I digress.
And that was okay. Only because it wasn't for
It was
a global
and
audience.
it was away from TV, American
Mhm.
TV. But the thing is, and I almost lost my point here. The thing is that they're not trying to be WCW. What they are trying to
sorry.
be,
WCW.
what they are trying to be, is a relevant company. Now, because you can make so many analogies and comparisons to TNA and WCW, that doesn't make them trying to be WCW. You could also follow the thread along with, they keep grabbing all these old WWE stars, and keep grabbing all these old stars off TV. what they're doing, and again, I harken back to the interview with Kevin Nash, the first time that we had him on the air. What did he say? He said to us, you know what, people come up to me in the airport all the time, hey, I missed you, where have you been? What have you been doing lately? Well, I wrestle on Thursday nights on TNA Impact on Spike TV. Oh, I didn't know. That's why those guys are there. That's why the Nasty Boys are there. That's something that you recognize. Even though I don't want them on my TV.
You better recognize who the hell I am.
Nasty I am not. So that's what they're there for. It's not trying to be WCW.
Let me challenge you on this, and let me get your opinion too, Linda Kay. There are a lot of people saying TNA is the next WCW, and I'm not sure if there's any merit to that aside from the talents that they may be using on air. And maybe the strategy that they're using as well, which is a lot of recognizable names coming over to their company, jumping ship, if you will, when in most cases
With
it wasn't
P.
a ship jumping at all.
Sure.
But it's a completely different scenario. TNA's got Spike TV in their corner solidly, but they don't have a media conglomerate behind them as WCW did with the networks of TBS.
And TNT.
They stole, literally took, most of their talent while they were still huge from WWE. TNA hasn't done that. Aside from Jeff Hardy, aside from maybe Ric Flair, nobody else, they haven't stolen anyone else. So it's a completely different scenario. So
And
I don't know
there
what
are-
the comparison is.
And there are talents that actually left WWE intentionally to go to TNA on their own accord.
There are a few. Kurt Angle.
Christian.
Well, yeah, but he came back.
But my point being that TNA was a choice for them to go to.
I just don't get the comparison. I see it at its surface, but I think you as fans, we as fans, owe it to ourselves to look at it and say, it's really a different time. That was 15 years ago, and WCW and WWE at the time both had tremendous stars. As the wars reached their peak, 98, 99, 2000, you had The Rock, you had Austin, you had Hogan huge, you had Goldberg, you still had the Macho
Sting,
Mans, the
Kevin
Stings,
Nash,
the Flairs,
Wolfpack.
everybody, the
Sure.
NWO. The stars
Yes.
overall, the business overall, was in the millions of viewers higher. March 8th, total of about 7 million viewers for both shows. Same week, year 2000, 14 million viewers over WCW Nitro and WWE Raw. So Linda, the question, is there really any merit to the comparison between WCW, which is a defunct wrestling company that was purchased by WWE in 2001, and
So
after it went
old
out of
stale.
business? I say that about every week.
Or about a minute.
Is there any comparison between WCW and TNA Wrestling?
You know, I can see things on both sides. You know, like you said, that, you know, the others, you know, the relevant part of the company. You know, like that's the competition. It's part of the sport. It's what gets the fans into it. You know, like you have your choices of, like with Angel, thank you for your email, talking about her, you know, tuning into Raw and not wanting to turn over to TNA. And, you know, what I agree with her is that, you know, like being tuned into Raw with WrestleMania coming up, I agree that, you know what, a lot of time spent on promoting the huge, biggest event of the year. You know, that's good, that's smart. But as far as saying TNA is WCW, I, you know,
It's
agree with
insulting.
You have to say that with the
Yes.
southern
or
dialect.
WCW.
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 Glasses down like this, paper in hand, preferably. This superstar was one of the top talents down in WCW.
like you said, Damon, you know, like 15 years ago to now, just so many different things. And with the superstars, you know, choosing to go to TNA or just people, you know, like hitting, you know, their prime at the time. It's just a different comparison 15 years to now. But I think TNA is just doing a great, you know, thing right now. Just, you know, like bringing it, you know, starting new and getting, you know, you're bringing in wrestlers that,
Sure.
been around for
And I think
maybe-
on that point, they actually are still tapping into a market that feels abandoned. It's only been 9 years since it was taken away from us.
Well, but at the time, you were one of 3 fans.
You were so wrong.
Oh, that's what Wikipedia said.
It could be a Linda and Meat show. I honestly, right out the door.
I'm needed here. Thank you for that email. Next email, final email of the day. And remember, these are all submitted via pwrshow.com. Final email of the day comes from Cardiff, Wales, in the United Kingdom. And the viewer's name is James O'Leary. He says this. Love the show. I've been watching and listening to the show for about 4 years now. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. And he goes on to say this. As a fan of both TNA and the United Kingdom, it's very difficult for me to show my support in the same way as the American audience does via ratings. TNA has no live United Kingdom deal, whereas Raw does. And it annoys me that Dixie Carter and Hulk Hogan have not noticed that the UK ratings for the Impact replay are higher than that of Raw. The fans that are prepared to stay awake until 2 a.m. to start watching Raw are, for the most part, the fans who know of TNA, so it seems like TNA is really dropping the ball with their United Kingdom audience. I know that this would not affect the ratings, but perhaps a war on two fronts would be a bit more impactful, pun intended, than just the U.S.
Gimmick intended.
What are your thoughts on the option of a live United Kingdom TV deal for TNA?
I'm ready to counterpoint that, if you will. It's unfortunate for those across the pond. TNA and WWE are American television products. And to be completely honest...
Some of the few American television products that we didn't steal from the United Kingdom, by the way.
Yeah, The Office, American Idol, and so forth. And to be honest, their product is geared, and they're only concerned with American ratings. Now, granted, they'll go overseas, make a couple dollars, make some merchandising dollars, if you will. But again, they're really only concerned with what's going on in the Continental 48.
It is a great story that is sometimes talked about by TNA, the fact that they do regularly defeat all of WWE programming in the ratings, and there are many reasons for that. I'm not sure if one can be pinpointed.
There's been a lot of talk about the fact that one is on Bravo and one is on Sky.
And that depends on who you ask,
because it's availability versus, availability.
We've gotten conflicting reports, but I think the point made in this email from James is it's more of a time of broadcast issue.
Correct.
If Raw's on overnight, live, they have a replay as well. You combine those two ratings. Sometimes those combined ratings doesn't even equal the initial debut rating of TNA over in the UK. The UK is a unique area for professional wrestling.
Very passionate
and it's one that I don't fully understand, and I mean that in this way. I don't understand why it's so dynamically different in general all ways from what's happening stateside. But the point in this that James made is he's not caught up in the ratings because they're not head-to-head, nor will they be. And I think without that factor, and granted we had it between, actually it was still compared, the Raw ratings were compared to Impact when it was on Thursdays, but without the ratings, if we the fans had no way to get at the ratings information, I wonder if the overall analysis of the shows would be different. Linda, your thoughts?
That's a heavy loaded question.
I'm not even sure if there's a question in there. But basically, things are different in the UK. If we didn't have access to the ratings, if we didn't know how Raw did and how Impact did, if we had to just simply judge the shows, do you think that the fans would view the product overall differently?
Perhaps, I guess with James, part of James' questions was saying, what are our thoughts of perhaps like a new war between the two shows, putting it out at the same time, perhaps? Is that something?
Well, that's what happens here domestically, obviously, but it doesn't happen in the UK.
But what if are they able to do that? Or
I don't know.
Depends on our networks. I don't think they have network deals with Bravo and Sky. And again, I use that analogy only because the same thing happens here. Even though Spike TV is available in, 90 plus percent in the country, it's not available in 100% of the households.
They have less penetration than
I was trying not to use that word.
USA. But it's a relevant term.
USA actually is in just about every household. I can't imagine a household that does not have the USA Network because it's mainstay.
You mean like Miley Cyrus's USA or Sykes USA?
Sykes.
Psych. You drop your eyes, creep. You drop your eyes, creep. James goes on to say this. I made a comment in the Chatmosphere before TNA Impact that I was not watching Impact for Hogan, as personally I've never been a fan of his ring work. But 5 minutes into the show, I had completely turned around on my opinion of why I was watching TNA, as I really wanted to see what was going to happen with Hogan later. My question really is this. How do you think TNA should go forward? Specifically, how should they go about making themselves better known to the WWE universe? And do you think taping every second Impact will increase their viewership in the way WCW revealing Mankind winning the WWF title did for Raw?
I don't know. Again, that's the one thing that we wish they weren't going to do was tape every other Impact. That's a financial thing. I mean, it costs so much money to fly the talent in, every time they do the show. Granted, they are
satellite time. There's so many costs. They're astronomical.
Yeah, granted, they are flying them into the same spot, so, you know, everybody stays at the same hotel, and, you know, they're all kind of bunched together. But if they went live every week, and if they became, like WCW did, a traveling company that did their shows, you know, from arena to arena to arena, they'd never be able to make it financially. So right now, the taping every other week is a financial move.
Yeah, I mean, we shall see what TNA will do to grab more Raw fans and just entice them with something new. Because, as you said, I mean, if they do a live show every week,
they're dead in the water. I think they should go viral. So,
Well, they own YouTube.
I know.
As far
I
as a
was just-
national wrestling company goes.
I was just throwing that word out there to make it sound like I was hip.
Yeah, you're not. It's going to take a lot of time for this to stick, if it sticks. I'll use this point again. Seinfeld, in his first 3 years, faced cancellation each and every one of those years.
And its first 2 years was awful.
Exactly. But the product, the network stuck with the product. It mattered only if they were satisfying the network at all. They were satisfying the network, they stayed with the product, and it grew into one of the most heralded TV shows of all time. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with Impact, but ultimately the only people that really matter as it pertains to what the rating Impact gets versus Raw or not versus Raw is Spike TV. Spike TV will make that ultimate decision, much like the USA Network will make the ultimate decision about WWE Raw. It could flip to the complete other side 12, 14, 16 months down the road, or there wouldn't be a war anymore. So many things can happen, and I don't think anybody would have thought in 1995, granted 15 years ago, I get it, that 6 years later, WCW would be out of business and owned
Now
by
that's
WWE.
the spot you should have said it. They would have known 6 years later that WCW, which was purchased in 2001,
Defunct is key in that statement. If
that's
you're
where
gonna-
you should
if
have
you're
put
gonna
it.
gank
That's where
my
you should.
stuff.
Please, you've ganked way more.
Speaking of way more, Cal is making obscene gestures over there to.
He does that to me every time we're on this show.
Well, you deserve it.
He came behind my seat and he
What-
started
we saw it,
chopping
yeah.
at me, and
Well, Linda, what a show!
Yes, sir.
I like this.
I like it
This
too.
works.
I'd like this more than this.
He's crude. He's obnoxious.
I'm
most
also
times.
honest. This isn't real. This is real.
How dare? Well, I never was on an episode of Three's Company. We reference a lot of pop culture from the '80s here.
My favorite shows, I must say so.
It was Jack and it was Chrissy and Janet's mom. They got into it, and she said, "Well, I never," and the retort was, "Well, you should have." This is good. But anyways,
Hey, kids!
WrestleMania 26, the Pro Wrestling Report, will be in Phoenix, covering WrestleMania like no other. Be sure to join us at Baby's Steak and Lemonade. Send your RSVP to WM26 at PWRshow.com. Join us for the tapings and all the surprises we have in store coming up WrestleMania weekend. For Linda Kay and the man they call Meathead, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you for tuning in to this extremely special edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Interactive.